Hello everybody and welcome back to another weekly reading vlog. So today is Wednesday, February 1st. I am already getting a head start on my February TBR, which is very long, by the way. Kingdom of the Wicked, The Hawthorne Legacy, Foul Lady Fortune, Queen of the Tearling, Throne of Glass, Between Wrath and Mercy, The Fine Print, The Cruel Prince, Atlas 6, Den of Vipers, and because I am a glutton for punishment and because the final offer just came out literally yesterday and I thought it wasn't out yet, but Terms and Conditions and the final offer by Lauren Asher, because I am 71% into the fine print and oh my god, you guys, maybe Book Talk has some hits sometimes. I read 26% of this book while I was at work today because we were slow, so of course I wanted something to do, and I was hooked. I was hooked. I had people coming up to me like asking me if I was okay because I looked like really focused, and I was like, no, I'm just really into this book right now. I'm trying to read on the clock here. Leave me alone. And then I went home, and one of the first things I did was continue reading, and I didn't want to go to like 50% because sometimes around 50% of the book I'm just like, I have another half of the book left to go. So what I like to do is get to the point where I only have like a quarter of the book left because that feels easier to me to get through one last sprint. I went home and I read it to 71%. So when I'm done here, I'm going to go and finish that. I just recorded the January wrap-up video. It definitely ended up being longer than I anticipated, but I'm probably going to trim a lot of the Vampire Academy stuff out. I was just ranting at that point. Basically, what I can say about the fine print right now is that I am loving the whole Grump falls for the Little Miss Sunshine trope. I am a sucker for it. I am loving the verbal sparring and the literal hate, the hate to love that is going on here. The only thing I could say that is a bit of an oof is the power imbalance between Rowan and Zara, because he corners her in his office and basically says, I'm not letting you leave until you sign this dotted line. You're not allowed to quit either. He basically like throws it all out there and forces her into a job promotion that she initially didn't want. Of course, she later says, like, sorry, I said no on instinct. Is just I didn't think that I was worthy, because she has really bad imposter syndrome. But the power imbalance is definitely evident, and they do discuss it. Like, Zara is like, you're my boss, like, get away from me. But I do enjoy their scenes where they're just platonic and getting to know each other. I don't live in Florida currently, but I am from there. I lived the first 22 years of my life there. I exist quite literally because of the rat. That's what we call Mickey Mouse. My grandmother worked in the Imagineering department for 25 years, and my parents met working at Disney. So that is how I exist. I am quite partial to the idea of this because it is about theme parks and imagination, and in another life I would have probably followed in my grandmother's footsteps and tried to go that route, but it was just not for me. I'm not like I'm creative, but I'm not an artistic person. I'm also a huge fan of Defunct Land and the history of animation studios and stuff like that. So I like the evolution of animation media over time is really interesting to me. So I am quite partial to the idea of this because I find Zara to be such an amazing and compelling figure. As you know, she's a beautician in basically the equivalent of the Bibbidi Boppity Boo salon, and then she signs on to be a part of the big creative team and basically the equivalent of the Imagineers. And she has a lot of really good ideas, like renovating certain things and like making the queue part of the ride experience. But I think what was really interesting that she did was experiencing the park from a guest's perspective to get fresh ideas. I thought that was cool as hell. Anyway, enough about me gushing about why I love like theme parks and Disney and all that stuff. I am by no means a Disney adult. I find the mechanics of that thing to be extremely interesting. The fine print, if you will. Haha, I made a joke. So yeah, if I could criticize the book for anything, it's the egregious power imbalance. They do make attempts to rectify that and to point out as to why it doesn't matter, but it is a huge like big thing. Like at one point Zara even says that Dreamland doesn't have a policy where you can't date, like it's just frowned upon. It feels like Lauren Asher is going out of her way to not have workplace drama be a issue in this story, that she does not want this story to be about a boss, a director dating a employee. She wants it to be the story about how Rowan is getting his stake in the company and how he is using Zara, not using, but like how he is having a blossoming relationship with somebody who has the creative powers that he is looking for to in order to achieve those goals. So I think that the big fallout is going to happen when Zara finds out that the whole reason why he's there in the first place is because he is trying to earn his place in the company, and then it all falls apart because she realizes that he's just going to leave after that. And that's when I think that it's really going to hit them. I don't foresee it being a kind of story where it's like you date your boss and then people find out and it becomes this whole big workplace like HR drama thing, because that's what Lauren Asher seems to be writing herself out of. And oof, girl, that is has HR written all over it. And for that, it definitely causes me to raise an eyebrow. I understand what type of story she's trying to tell, but in the real world, it would not work like this. So for that reason, the book is, I mean, I want to give it the 5 stars that everybody gives it, even at this point, being at 71% of the book. I want to give it 5 stars, but I can't because of that. And you know, I can overlook things sometimes, but I can't overlook that. I can't suspend my disbelief that much to think that somebody who is at a C level can date an employee without any workplace repercussions. You know, I can't do that. Now we're really living in dreamland. Anyway, that's how I feel about the fine print at 71% so far. I am loving it. I want to give it 5 stars, but because of my issues with HR violations and such, I'm probably not. I am getting a good head start on my reads for February, but I am behind on finishing my reads for January. So I'm basically going to end here and then start editing the January wrap up video. And then I'm going to crawl my ass into bed and finish the fine print, if not finishing it before bed. And then starting on these, I want to finish these ASAP. And once I'm finished with the fine print, I have the Hawthorne Legacy ready to be read, and then I have a Foul Lady Fortune that I can start listening to. So I am excited to get started on those. I'm going to do that thing again where I'm reading like 3 books at once. So it's going to be great because I'm going to have to get through like 14 books in February if I want to be on track with my TBR. So I love that for me. Hi, checking in for Friday. I am about 20-ish% into Last Sacrifice, and I just started Terms and Conditions, and by that I mean I'm in the first chapter. I haven't gotten that much done between last night and now because I have had the worst migraine, but I am finally feeling better, so I just got home from work, so I'm going to eat and then get to reading for the night, probably get through a good chunk of Last Sacrifice, probably try to get to at least 50% tonight, so read about 30% of that, and then if I want to read before bed, I'll read more of Terms and Conditions, and then I'll continue reading it while I'm at work tomorrow on break, because I could just read it on my phone. But yeah, I'm excited for Declan's story. I think he might be my favorite brother. I don't know quite yet. I haven't decided. But I don't know. I've always liked the name Declan since Declan on Degrassi, but you know, that's a blast from the past. I just aged myself there. But I did finish the fine print. I rated it 4.5 stars, but I rounded up to 5 on Goodreads. I wanted to give it 4 stars rounded down, but I mean, it was immaculate. Minus the only thing I didn't like was the lack of external drama between the relationship between Zara and Rowan, because in the real world, that would have existed like heavily. So I understand that like realism isn't exactly what we're going for here when it comes to the story, but in the real world, that would have been a massive issue. So I am being washed out so bad right now. But anyway, I just wanted to share that. Hopefully the migraine doesn't come back because I need to get a lot of reading done. If you saw the TBR that just went up this morning, I am reading 14 books in the month of February, so I got to get a move on. That's roughly about a book every other day, and I finished the fine print yesterday morning, so I got to get a move on. So I'm going to try to get to 50% of Last Sacrifice tonight and get through as much of Terms and Conditions as I can, and kind of get them both done around the same time, and then jump into Poison Season and Final Offer and get through those like around the same time, and then jump into everything else. I think I have like 2-ish weeks left on my loans for Foul Lady Fortune and the Hawthorne Legacy. Those are going to be next. So those are on loan from the library ebook wise. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on all of those. It's going to be a great time. I'm excited. I am very tired. I will never probably get my lighting right until I can get some natural light in my surroundings, but until I don't live in a basement, that's just not, it's not in my future. Anyway, I finished Last Sacrifice today. I read like 40% of it in one sitting before work today. I rated it 4.5 stars for what it is and based on what all came before it, but I do have some gripes that I will address in the Vampire Academy Part 2. I'm going to attempt to not make that another hour-long video, just because I really don't feel like it. But, you know, I did a really bad job at doing a reread and typing notes at the same time. So I'm gonna have to really bullet point those plot summaries before I get to my overall gripes. Okay, so I am convinced that the first arc of the story, books 1 through 3, is all it was supposed to be, and that there was supposed to be a wrapping up at the end. But little, like, characters here and there made it impossible for the series to wrap up. There were just some loose ends that didn't get tied up, like the fact that Adrian was starting to become a more prominent character. But I also think that at the end of Shadowkiss, you could have ended it with Dimitri not getting captured and turned Strigoi against his will. And you could have ended it with, you know, not a happily ever after, but like it would have just tied it up into need of a bow for the story to end there, because the problem became larger than the plot of the first 3 books. It was becoming much more. So I understand why a second arc was necessary, but the second arc is weaker than the first, I'd say, for a multitude of reasons. We already know that I did not like Blood Promise for many reasons, but mostly because of the kidnapping, and the book itself just needed a lot of copywriting attention. It needed a heavy hand with a copy editor, and it needed some plot reorganizing, in my humble opinion. Not that I know what the fuck I'm doing. I am just an anonymous voice on the internet that sometimes maybe gets 10 views a video at this point. So, like, I'm not that important, is what I'm saying. What I am saying is that Blood Promise definitely needed some attention. Spiritbound was much better. It was much more well-paced. It was much better edited. It was much better in general. Last Sacrifice. This could have been the best book in the series, and I'll tell you why. This book does a really, really excellent job at pacing, plot, mystery. It does a really good job at all of those things. Because at the end of Spiritbound, the queen, spoilers, the queen is murdered. And Rose gets framed for it with some really shoddy evidence, and people basically can say, oh, I know she didn't do it, but they want the easiest answer. And Rose had just made like a public threat against the queen, and she was not very well liked by the queen because she was dating her great nephew, and it was an easy person to blame. So they were keen on throwing Rose in prison at the end of Spiritbound. And Last Sacrifice is all about proving Rose innocence. Also, I love, this is my favorite book cover because of the color. It's like a teal, or like a seafoam green, not teal. It's a seafoam green, and it's my favorite color out of all of them. This does an excellent job of pacing the breaking Rose out of prison and, you know, going all over the place trying to figure out Tatiana's last riddle, try to figure out how to get Lissa to be able to have her power back on the council with all the royal families. It sets up a really good mystery that, although I knew the end result at the end of who did what and what the mysteries mean, and I knew all the big reveals, if I'm rereading it, as I'm rereading it, I was treating it like I'd never read it before. And the clues were very well hidden. It was very well done. However, there was one big part of the book that I was vehemently disgusted by, much like in Blood Promise when I was disgusted by the scenes in which Dimitri was Strigoi and he was coercing Rose into certain activities, and he was assaulting her, essentially. I heavily dislike the keepers in Last Sacrifice. So, as a part of Rose being a fugitive, they need to stay off the map. And Rose, in an attempt to escape from Dimitri and Sydney because she feels bad just sitting and staying still, which is a fatal flaw for Rose, if we know, they end up hanging out for a couple of days with a community of off-the-grid Moroi, Dampiers, and humans that are all mixed together. They call themselves the Keepers, and that the Dampiers and the modern Moroi court are called the Tainted, and that the Strigoi are called the Lost. And they are basically, Rose refers to them as like Amish, in that they are like the Amish are to us, in that they stick to the older ways. The Moroi are still with humans. They still have children with humans. And the way that this is discussed is quite alarming. This is not well done, in my opinion. I mean, okay, the book is old. I'm aware the book is old. This is not well done. I was very disturbed by certain phrases, such as, this is savage, this is just not done, this is like how it used to be, but we just don't do it anymore because the humans are this and the humans are disgusting and the humans are that. It reminded me of, and I'm sorry that I'm making another Harry Potter reference, but I was a Harry Potter kid. It reminded me of the Magic is Might fountain that was in the Ministry of Magic. And the fountain, if you pay close attention, shows wizards standing on top of humans that look deformed, that look not inhuman, because, you know, they're humans, but they look like almost beastly. I'm sure that this has been discussed by people with larger voices than mine and in a much more eloquent way than I can say it off the top of my head, but I am sick and tired of hearing the same thing in every fantasy series of humans exist, but humans are kept separate from us, fae, vampires, whatever the case may be. They are a separated society that is not integrated with humans for whatever reason. And the reasons that this is done is almost always the humans, like, we can't get along with them anymore, or they hunted us, or they don't understand us. And the way that this is done is that it demonizes humans, and a lot of times it's demonizing them as lesser than. and showing that these supernatural beings, it's usually fae or vampires, that they are superior to humans. I don't like this at all. In fact, I am begging fantasy writers to, if you're going to have a separated community of your main cast that happens to be of a certain supernatural creature. We've been joined by a guest. If you're going to have that, make it an event. Make it an event that there's a reason you don't stay around large communities of humans for a good reason. You know, humans are lesser, or humans are this, or humans are that. It's make it interesting. Make it like something physically happened, like a historical event. Like there was something that happened that will now become integral to the current plot. That, you know, 100 years ago, 500 years ago, there was a incident in which people from our community and people from the human community got into this altercation or into this argument, and something happened. Somebody died. Somebody was taken and forced to become a vampire against their will, and it shattered our relations with the humans. Make it interesting. Make it purposeful. Not just this, oh, we don't do this because humans are lesser than. Because the way that they were talking about communities with humans and Moroi in them, they were discussing it as like an anti-species mixing, which is just one step away from being against race mixing. And I don't care if it's fantasy or not. I don't want to read about that. The way that they discussed the capers in this is just more of that. And I'm tired of it. I understand that this came out around the same time. Probably this released maybe a year or two before or after the Deathly Hallows. So I understand this is a product of its time. It's also hard to say that about something that's only 15 years old. That it sucks that I have to say that media moves so quickly that something that's 15 years old is a product of its time. We have moved past the need for fantasy racism to be the base as to why the fantasy community in question is separated from the others. It's just plain and simple. Be more creative than that. And honestly, their inclusion in the book didn't even matter. They could have been not even in the book, and it would have been better. Honestly, it would have been better. They could have found another hotel, found another safe house, because we never circled back to that. Because Sydney asks, you know, when was the last time the alchemist sent supplies? And they said, oh, it's been a long time. And then Sydney's like, I should really get on that. And then it's never revisited. So honestly, you could have taken that out and just plucked that out, and it would have honestly made the book better. Just trimmed out those like 3 or 4 chapters, and the book would have been like 60 pages shorter, and it would have been a lot better, and I would have rated it 5 stars. Anyway, that's my gripe. Outdated vampire racism. So now that Vampire Academy is over, I'm going to record my thoughts and discuss it for the Vampire Academy Part 2 video that should be out next Friday. If you're watching this the day it comes out, this should be Monday, February 6th. So on Friday will be the video on Vampire Academy Part 2, unless something happens that I have to move a couple of things around, because I have a very busy work week ahead of me. But I'm going to get started on the poison season. I also just started Terms and Conditions. Iris seems to be a very compelling female main character, and I am very intrigued as to how she's going to break down Declan's walls. As for already going into the story, I know that they are 2 people who know each other extremely well in kind of an unspoken way. You work together in ways that it is like a working machine. So I'm interested to see how that working relationship, no pun intended, moves into a loving relationship. So I'm excited, but also Poison Season. I am very excited to read this as well. So, yeah, that is the end of this week's reading vlog. I'm getting a pretty good head start into my February reads. That means I'm down 2 already. I'm finally caught up enough to the point where the story graph is not telling me that I am behind. So I'm going to try to keep that momentum. So I'm going to try to get through both the Poison Season and Terms and Conditions and the final offer very quickly, because those are more short than all the others, and then jump into the rest of everything else that I have. I also need to start reading Foul Lady Fortune ASAP, because that will get sent back to the library. There are people waiting on it for me to not have it anymore, so there's no way I'm going to be able to extend the loan. So I'm gonna get through that ASAP. But anyway, if you made it to the end of this reading vlog, thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you'd like to find me anywhere else, you can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram. I stream twice a week on Twitch, usually anywhere between Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. It's 2 of those days, most of the time. Anyway, remember to drink water and be nice to each other and exude kindness and empathy with everything that you do. And I will see everybody in the next video.